Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today's session is approximately 30 minutes and will be recorded for future on-demand viewing. There'll be a Q&A pod that's going to appear on your left for you to send us any questions that you might have. Also, in the top right corner of your screen, you'll see an arrow icon, and you can go ahead and click this to move the presentation into full screen mode. So at this time, I'd like to turn things over to our host, Joe Klinker. Joe, over to you.
Thank you, Lori, and hello, everybody. Good morning, potentially good afternoon if you guys are in a different part of the world than where I am. I'm coming to you guys from San Jose, California, Adobe's world headquarters, and I'm excited to have you guys on our session today to talk about our upcoming 9.3 release and our new partnership with SAP SuccessFactors. I did notice a few of you are leveraging SAP SuccessFactors in the pre-show polling question, so I'm excited to show you guys what we've got. Before I pass it off to my esteemed colleagues, I wanted to show you guys a little bit more about what this innovation series is. So this is our second episode. We did do one in February about our partnership with Microsoft. And you're going to find over the next several months that this is a monthly webinar, so we're trying to aim for the first Thursday of each month. That may vary slightly depending on vacations and holidays, but we're aiming to come to you guys each month with an overview of what is happening at Adobe, what you can do with the different features inside of Adobe Sign, and how you can find more value. We're also really wanting to encourage conversation and collaboration, so please feel free to submit questions, talk to us, talk to each other, and really find this a really engaging conversational environment. And finally, as you can see from me in the top left corner, this is a live video session, so we're trying to encourage our presenters to share themselves as they share their content. Without any further ado, I do have two esteemed colleagues speaking today, Christy Hubbard and Jenny Ho. Both of these individuals are Senior Product Marketing Managers. Christy will cover our 9.3 initiative, and Jenny will talk about SuccessFactors alongside her colleague, Scott. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Christy, who is going to start talking about 9.3.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. All right, get my camera set up here and start sharing. There we go. Hello, everybody. I'm Christy Hubbard, and I'm delighted to be here. Let's start with the 9.3 release and the SAP timeframes. Both of these will be released Thursday, March the 8th, so that's not very far from now. Looking forward to it. Here's the overview of sort of key things that are happening with this release. The first of them is life sciences compliance, and I've got a regulation name that everybody just it just trips right off the tongue. FDA 21 CFR Part 11. This is actually a regulation in biopharma, pharmaceutical, healthcare area. It was written by the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S., but it's really been adopted globally, and it's all about signer authentication and electronic records. And what we're going to show you today is how we can actually now do that compliance both with e-signatures, which is new, as well as the digital signatures that we've already had. So that's what we're going to talk about. The second area is cloud signature advancements, and cloud signatures are a type of digital signature. You might recall that a digital signature is the one that requires a pre-issued certificate-based digital ID, and we've got some great new administrative controls and some new providers to talk with you about. The third area I'll be sharing is experience innovation. We've got some terrific new capabilities here, including mobile signature capture as a default condition or a required condition, and some email templates. I'll tell you more about that. There is one more area that's included in the 9.3 release, but honestly, I'm not going to cover it today. We're going to save that because we're going to do an entire session in April around forms, and so we'll talk more about that then. But just so you know, with this release, we have a payment integration with Braintree, which is a payment gateway provider. It's a PayPal service. And we've also got some new capabilities with the fill and sign tool on filling forms without signing. So we'll talk more about that in April, but that's also in the release notes, so you can check that out. All right, let's go ahead and launch right in life sciences compliance. It's all about higher levels of signer authentication and very high standards for electronic record processing. As you can imagine, in the life sciences industry, there's a lot of private, personal, confidential information and critical information. If you're talking about the development of drugs, making sure that every single step is really nailed down and the right people are signing is a critical interest. I will say, for those of you that aren't in the life sciences business, though, that what you're about to see could easily be applied to any really critical process, like high-value financial transactions, for instance, where you really just have to be really sure that the right person is signing every time. So just open that up as a possibility as well. So as it relates to life sciences compliance, that we have, like I said, we're setting it up so that you can do e-signatures with multi-factor authentication to meet the requirements of, I'm just going to call it CFR for short. We're also, and this is something that we got last fall, but you might not know about it, in the digital signature arena, there's a specific certification or a specific approach to doing digital signatures to meet biopharma requirements. It's called Safe Biopharma, and we do that as well. But let's sort of dig in. What are the additional things that you actually have to do in order to be compliant with CFR? And there are three things involved. The first one is revalidating a person's identity at the time of signing. So we're all familiar with basically authenticating people before they open the document, and we're still going to do that. But what we're doing here is adding a step where there's an additional phone verification that happens at the moment of signing. Also, before they're really done, each of the signers need to add a reason for signing, and this could be reasons that you define in advance, or just you can also just ask the person to type in their own reason for signing. Another area that we're adding here, if you take a look, there's like a little signature block next to the name, and that has, and we're putting in this signature block, and that includes a timestamp that's a true worldwide, global time, 24-hour time zone timestamp, not just your local time, but a true time, so that record, you will always be able to prove exactly when the document was signed. Okay, on the digital signature side, of course, we're meeting the Safe Biopharma. Here's an image that shows you, this is a more typical experience where the signer has a personal PIN that they've been assigned in advance. They've been given this digital ID. When they go to sign, they actually have to put in their personal PIN, and optionally they can also be required to put in a one-time passcode that they might get from their mobile device. This, by the way, is done with our partner. Digital IDs are typically from partners. There is a partner called Transped that issues digital IDs. They are also CFR compliant, Safe Biopharma compliant, so they're a great partner to work with on this. Okay, let me show you how it works in the real world. I'll start with Sam, who's going to send a document for signature. He'll come in, and he's going to go ahead and say, okay, I want to send to Sarah Tran. And the first thing that you're going to notice is that the authentication is changing. In this case, you can't use email authentication. In order to be CFR compliant, you have to do multi-factor authentication. And there's really two choices that you can have, either a phone PIN, the idea of sending a text to your phone and typing that in, or new in this release, you can actually choose your own Adobe Sign ID as a login. So for instance, you might use a phone ID or a phone PIN for someone external to your company, but you might use an Adobe Sign ID for someone in the company who has an Adobe Sign account. So we're going to go ahead and grab a file, and it's going to use a clinical trial document, and now we're going to go ahead and send it. And off it goes. Now we'll switch to Sarah, our signer, and she goes into her email and opens the document. And the first, now this is not unusual. This starts with a phone verification just to get into the document in the first place. So she's going to say, yes, send me a code. She gets the code on her phone and types it in. She goes into the document. And of course, she could fill out the whole form, but we're just going to go straight to the signature for demonstration purposes today. And this is one of the things that changes. She's being asked to do a second phone verification at the moment of signing. And by the way, this is a separate number than it's different from the first time. So she actually has to go get it issued again. All right, because this is how you make sure that it really is unique at the moment of signing. All right, and she signs her name as usual. But then there's one more stop where she's going to get a preview of that signature with its little timestamp and signature block in there. And she's going to select her reason for signing. So she does that, and off it goes. So she says, click to sign, and of course it's successful. And when it's all done, she can actually, anybody can open up this document, and you can see the signature looks a little different. It actually has a little signature block on it. It's certified with a tamper evidence seal, all those good things. Okay, now I told you that we also do digital signatures. Rather than taking you through that entire sequence, what I wanted to do was just sort of call out the differences. So in digital signatures, what you would actually do is choose email authentication to begin, not because we're really fully using email authentication, but because the digital ID has its own form of multi-factor authentication. Let me show you how that works. You go into your authoring environment and add a digital signature to the authoring layout. And then when the signer goes to open the document, they actually need to authenticate with their certificate, their cloud-based certificate digital ID provider first. And then during the moment of signing, they actually re-authenticate with their personal PIN, and they can add that one-time password too. It just depends on how the different digital ID providers set it up differently. Sometimes it's a single with authentication step with just with the PIN. Sometimes they add a one-time password as well, and that just kind of depends on what your requirements are too. Most organizations can do it either way. Okay, now what we're going to do is move on to the administrator role, and well, okay, my picture didn't make it into the center on this slide, so sorry about that, but just, look up at the corner. There I am. Hi, I'm Christy. I'm the administrator. All right, in we go. We're going to go into our account settings under Global and Account Settings. What you're going to see is that there's a brand new Biopharma Settings page for this. This is, by the way, something that is available for enterprise customers. It is something you would need to contact your CSM to enable. It's not going to show up unless you ask for it. But here's what it looks like. And what you can see is at the very top, especially for the e-signatures, that this is where you would turn on the desire to enforce those identity authentication. In addition, you can set up your own signing reasons, and you can apply those to e-signature workflows or digital signature workflows. There's another step too that's necessary, because you'll actually have to go into your send settings, and you'll have to specifically turn off the other forms of authentication. For this type of workflow, you have to turn off email and password and social identity. The only two that you can use are phone authentication and the Adobe Sign authentication in order to be compliant with the CFR requirements. What you might notice here is that we actually have, we've set up settings differently for internal versus external. For external, we're going to say let's use phone authentication, but for internal, let's go ahead and use our Adobe Sign IDs. So that works better. And frankly, since phone authentication does have a transaction fee involved with it, the more you can do internal, the more you're going to save. Okay. So with that, let's move on to the cloud signature. This is all about digital signatures, as I mentioned. We've got some great new administrative controls. So for instance, the way cloud signatures work today is when the person goes to authenticate with their provider, they'll be given a list of providers, but what we're hearing from customers is that, sometimes it's like, no, really, in order to be compliant, I want to just, they must sign with one provider, right? So we're basically setting up administrative controls so you can, to say, I only want to work with one or two providers. Another area, group control over digital signatures. The idea being maybe one group is using digital signatures while others are not, so you can set it up. In this case, I'm looking at the authoring layout. That the default factor is to just see regular signature field choices, but if you turned on digital signatures, then you would see then your users would see digital signatures. So this can be controlled at the group level. Some other things we've got. I don't know if I've got anybody on the line from Sweden, but if you're in Sweden, you're in luck, because 6.5 million Swedish citizens already have a digital ID. It's called Bank ID. It's actually the ID that was given to them by their bank, and now it just works automatically with Adobe Sign, or at least it will when 9.3 ships. And we have several more digital ID providers coming up. You can see we've got March and April delivery timeframes estimated here, but we're going to have a number of them coming on board very shortly. All right, and then finally, experience innovation. This is all about, providing better experiences for you and your team. The first of these, required mobile signature capture. What we've heard from folks is some people say, like, yeah, I don't want people typing or drawing or uploading images. I really want their real signature. So what we're doing is putting in an admin control that actually lets you simply only do mobile. So the customer would simply only see a mobile signature screen. They would send a little message to their phone, and then they're given a signing experience where they can sign with their finger or a stylus, and now you've captured a real-life signature. Another area, expanded email customization. Last May, we actually rolled out true email customization, where you could take the signature request email template and the confirmation templates and put not just your logo, but a real HTML template with your fonts and your colors and your images, your treatment. New with this release, we're adding 2 more templates, reminders and cancellations, so you can do even more, and that's actually the vast majority of the email templates that get used in Adobe Sign, so that's great. We got a couple other things, OneDrive integration and some great adaptive experiences with the home and manage page. But that's really the heart of the matter for the release. And I'm going to wrap right there, and I'm going to say thanks for listening on that one. I'm going to pass it off to Jenny.
Great, thanks, Christy. Let me start my webcam here. Hey, everyone. All right. There we go. So hey everyone. So my name is Jenny, and I'm excited to give you guys a quick overview and intro of our SAP SuccessFactors integration launch, which will be live, as Christy mentioned earlier, next week on March 8th. Let me give you some quick background really quick in terms of just the top challenges we're seeing in human capital management today. So we've taken a look at some Aberdeen Group studies last year, and 3 key themes have emerged from business leaders that were really surfacing to the top. The first key theme is really that it's hard to recruit great talent, right? So recruiting qualified people, great people is really hard. So today what we're hearing from our HR audience is that it's not only about hiring the best people, but it's about hiring effective leaders that can take on those business challenges, communicate and solve those business challenges across the entire organization. Secondly, organizations also lack the visibility to their own HR data. So in the 90s, it was okay to have that transactional data where data was just stagnant, right? And you weren't able to interpret or do anything with it. But today, as you all know, data helps us to drive to better processes and outcomes, and that's what businesses are asking for today. So being able to leverage and access that key HCM data points is extremely valuable. The last key learning we've learned from the Aberdeen Group is that we need to increase employee productivity. So, just having more of it. As organizations continue to grow, the expectations for what people get done in the workday has not changed or accelerated. And so we need to find ways to challenge the status quo, to increase efficiency, and to optimize the productivity of our employees. So let me run through really quick the reasons behind HR challenges. So the reasons and causes, and some of the things that we've taken a look at as Adobe and SAP SuccessFactors have come together is that we've learned that we've heard problems in the past where there's been significant digital silos. And 81% of customers have said that the lack of integration and system complexities has really caused challenges to be able to get access to the information that they need, which then compromises on employee satisfaction. So if we take an example of recruiting, for example, when a candidate needs to fill out their information via some sort of an applicant tracking system followed by some form of onboarding system and then potentially a core system of record, we're asking a candidate to fill in their first and last name potentially 12 to 14 times. And so these types of digital silos are not only just frustrating for employees and applicants, but it also causes errors and complexities within your organization. We're also hearing there's a disconnect in that last mile. And so if we take an example of Adobe and SAP SuccessFactors, the ability to push out documents and track that information and store it back into Adobe really didn't make sense. And so our customers were continuing to ask for features that they could use in their core HR in addition to using Adobe Document Repository system all in one place in one streamlined fashion, and so that their employees would never have to leave, that that they can store the documents right within their core system of record, and we've helped solve for that. The last reason behind the challenges within HR is really compliance, right? And so 51% of participants from this study, which we've done with IDC, said that they've lost or misfiled their compliance reporting, which means that almost 1 out of every 2 documents within their storage has been lost or misproperly stored. And so these are just the type of incidents which cause significant risk to your organization. So really quick, Adobe Document Cloud, in the spirit of time, I won't go through everything, but it's not just Adobe Sign, right? It's desktop app, it's mobile apps, we have Acrobat PDF services and workflow solutions. And Adobe Sign just sits within this ecosystem as part of this one cohesive offering. And with Adobe Sign, some of the e-signature services, we're in a business of being in a business automation platform. So all the document workflows for businesses that involve reviews, signatures, approval, these services are used by organizations across sales, HR, procurement, legal departments, just to automate processes. So it's not just for sales contracts, but it's for offer letters, vendor onboarding, NDAs, and more. And so Adobe, what you see here, has a lot of these out-of-the-box integrations with leading human capital management, CRM, and document management systems such as the SAP SuccessFactors, the Workday, the Salesforce, and the Microsoft product lines. And across all of these applications, we do offer a common set of services that include the analytics, compliance, and industry standards and APIs that provide that extensibility. So here's what a typical digital document lifecycle looks like with Adobe and SAP SuccessFactors. So you have your create, collaborate, and execute. So you have files that start with a Word document or PDF, change them into forms where you can collaborate in a certain platform. So it could be offer letters, onboarding documents. Then you execute them by signing it, approving it, and then storing it back within SuccessFactors. And we'll get into more of that in the live demo. So the typical use cases that you guys would be familiar with HR is really recruiting and onboarding. And so with recruiting, you have things like new hire forms, offer letters, onboarding documents. Onboarding, you have a lot of different variations of flavors of documents such as remote employee agreements, direct deposit, benefit enrollment forms. And these are really typical use cases we're seeing and very relevant for the SAP SuccessFactors integration with Sign. And lastly, all the integration benefits you see here, just to summarize what I just talked about, it's really securing top talent faster, increasing employee productivity, right? Gaining visibility across all of the digital document lifecycle within the organization, increasing your SAP SuccessFactors ROI investment, extending that investment across, and then quick deployment, always being current, and lastly, really reducing those risks and really ensuring compliance. And with that said, lastly, there's some customer success stories that we have mined with a few of our customers that I thought would be great to highlight. But these are just some customers that have experienced great ROI using Sign for HR. And so HPE achieved over $1 million in cost savings annually just by streamlining their onboarding efforts. And these customers, HPE, for example, has been a DocuSign switcher just because DocuSign wasn't able to provide that cloud extensibility as Adobe Document Cloud and Adobe Sign was able to. Then we have Trinity Health, who saved over $650K a year, streamlining their document processes across 93 hospitals in 22 states. They had a lot of digital silos within all of their hospitals, and they were able to streamline their operations and documents across, so that was really compelling. And now I'm going to pass it over to Scott for a live demo on SAP. Scott?
Great, thank you, Jenny. Let me just start up the camera. Awesome. So welcome everybody. My name is Scott Dreyer. I'm a product manager here at Adobe, and we are launching this integration between Adobe Sign and SuccessFactors next week. And I wanted to walk through a quick demo of what that is. So SuccessFactors, this is the home page for it. When you install SuccessFactors from the SAP App Center, we will automatically install 2 tiles into this. We have one for recruiting and one for onboarding. I'm going to specifically talk about the recruiting module here today and our integrations into recruiting. So to get started, we go into recruiting itself. And now we're going to drill down to find our job rec and the candidate that we want to send an offer letter to. Now the thing about our integration to Adobe Sign and SuccessFactors is that it's really the last mile. It's the final connection between the offer letter and the user. So anything you set up before in SuccessFactors around workflow, approvals, and all that, that remains the same. Adobe Sign just jumps in at the last moment to actually facilitate getting that signature, the delivery of the offer letter and getting that signature. So I see here I have a list of candidates for this position, and I'm going to send an offer letter to Sarah Tran. So we go down to Sarah, we select her, we see that she's been approved for an offer letter, and now we're going to generate the offer letter. So in the middle right-hand side, we're going to take an action, and from here we're going to choose offer, and we're going to choose offer letter. Now this brings up a template. Within SuccessFactors, you can have a number of templates, maybe for different roles, maybe for different geos. We've modified this particular template to be Adobe Sign enabled. And as you can see here, we get the template and all the fields that are going to be data mapped. So I move on to the next step. And now SuccessFactors applies all the data, all the employee data, their name, address, location, their state that they're in. It should have been in there. And you'll see also that we have this banner now at the top. Now this is a banner that's provided by Adobe, is provided by the integration, and we have branding here. You can include your own branding in there, change it to whatever you like. But what this is this is what's going to start the transaction between the offer letter and Adobe Sign. So we review it to make sure everything is good. And before I save it, I just want to point out at the bottom here, you'll see in the squiggly brackets our text tag. And that defines where the signature block is going to go. You could add any of our text tags to this document, any sort of form control that you want to collect data from a end user or from the signer, if you like. We've added the text tag. So I'm going to save this. I like it, and now I'm going to send it. So go up here, click on it, and it goes off to Adobe Sign. It's going to bring up our preview or our embedded send page. And here you get a chance to review all the information that has been provided. So we can validate that the email address is correct. We can change it. We can change the type of authentication we want to use here. If we want to use phone authentication, we could. Any private messages we want to add, or if we even want to add more documents to it, we could here. I could go on to the next step and preview it and drag and drop fields, but I don't need to do that because I've already set up the document properly. So I'm going to click next and have this send out to Sarah. So now it's been sent, and now I'm going to show you what Sarah, the candidate, sees. So she opens up her email client, clicks on the email notification from Adobe. She sees the Global Corporate Center and offer letter, And now she's going to click on that offer. And here's the standard Adobe Sign experience. We have everything that's been loaded up from it's the same document we saw from SuccessFactors. You'll notice that that banner that we used to initiate the sequence has been removed. So I start the review. I'm going to sign the document. Sarah signs it. And of course, this could have been done on mobile. I'm going to agree to the terms and click to sign. At this point, the document is signed. I could download a copy of it if I liked, or the candidate could download a copy, I should say. And we're going to go back into SuccessFactors now and take a look at the candidate's record. So it's been sent out. The document's been signed. We automatically feed back to SuccessFactors the signed document. So we've changed the candidate status to offer accepted. That's automatically. We have this Adobe offer signed field, and we have a document on it. And the document is the signed document. So I'm going to click on it. We bring up the field showing when it was updated, that it was signed, and then of course I can open up that document and view it. Down at the bottom you'll see the signature with the clickable audit link to go and validate that signature at any point in the future. That is the entire sign experience with SuccessFactors. I am going to turn it back over to Jenny or Joe, I believe.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, Joe here. I'll take it over from here. Thanks, everybody, for joining the second episode of our innovation series. I know we're at the bottom of the half hour, but wanted to quickly walk you guys through some other things that we're doing here at Adobe to help you guys find value with your investment. My goals as the manager of this program is really to help you guys achieve your goals, across your corporate goals of transforming your businesses, your organizational goals of finding value from your investment, and also your personal goals of growing your careers and becoming stellar transformers in your organizations. And so there's a lot of things in place for you guys to take advantage of as an Adobe Sign customer. You all know you have a CSM you can work with to launch new use cases. Maybe that new use case is CFR compliance or SuccessFactors. I also wanted to let you guys know about the Insiders Network, which is a new online community we've built just for customers, and I have a link for that in a minute. There are other things happening. We have our Innovation Series monthly. We have a monthly newsletter. We are doing some live events this year as well. So you'll be hearing more from me about those things in the coming weeks. So here are a few resources for you guys. First, if you aren't sure who your CSM is or how to get in touch with them, please feel free to follow this top link. It'll bring you to a form, and we'll make sure to find you the right person to talk to. That middle link is for you guys to actually join the Insiders Network. Come chat with us online, learn what's new, learn what's going on. And finally, this bottom link is kind of the landing page for this innovation series. It will be hosting all of the recordings. So last month's series about the Microsoft partnership is on that page right now. And later today, we'll be posting the registration page for next month's session, which, as Christy mentioned, is all about forms and payments. We'll also post the recording to this section, and we'll email you guys all of these links tomorrow morning so you have them for your records. With that, I wanted to make sure do one last call for questions. If you have questions for Christy, for Jenny, or for Scott, please feel free to submit them. If you don't, then feel free to go ahead and answer some polling questions that we're going to show in just a second. And thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on next month's session.
So this will conclude the audio portion of today's session. We're going to stay online and answer any questions that you might have with the chat pod there on the left-hand side. Also, if you could fill out these polls, we would greatly appreciate it. We would like to know if this content met your expectations today and what other topics you might be interested in learning a little bit more about for the next sessions. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month.